Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the February 20th, 2019 board meeting to order and remind everyone to please use your microphones when speaking and turn them off when you're finished. Thank you. Commissioners present are Commissioner Sanders, Commissioner Schmidt, Commissioner Duggan, Commissioner Doan, and myself, Commissioner Bagnall. We will start this evening with the reports by the CEO and management staff.
Good evening, President Bagnall, members of the board. We will kick off the meeting this evening, as we always do, with a safety minute. And so Andrew Carlstrom, our customer service manager, will present the safety minute this evening. Andrew.
All right. Well, good evening. Tonight's safety moment is on carbon monoxide, the invisible killer. Yes, I worked on that. So what is carbon monoxide? Well, as you probably know, it's a colorless, odorless, and toxic gas. It's produced by burning carbon-based fuels, and have an image here on various places in and around the house where you would find sources. Things like vehicles, small engines, stoves, grills, lanterns, fireplaces, ranges, portable generators, furnaces, and gas-powered water heaters. Statistics nationally in the United States, more than 400 people die every year of carbon monoxide poisoning, 20,000 visit the ER, and 4,000 are hospitalized. That's why we have the carbon monoxide Be Alarmed graphic here. Effects, well, it interferes with the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. And for those who are like geeking out on these types of things, it's interesting that hemoglobin, which carries oxygen, has a high affinity for oxygen in various active sites. It actually has a higher affinity for carbon monoxide. Poisoning often goes undetected, which is why it's called the invisible killer. It can strike victims often off guard or in their sleep, and exposure to carbon monoxide can result in permanent neurological damage or death. Signs of carbon monoxide poisoning: headaches, nausea, breathlessness, collapse, dizziness, and loss of consciousness, not unlike you might have for presentations like this. So who is at risk for carbon monoxide poisoning? Well, anyone including humans and pets, and those prone especially to CEO, illness, and death, infants, elderly, and anyone with heart disease, anemia, and breathing problems. So what can you do to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning? Well, on the do side of the ledger, yearly service your heating system, water heater, gas burning appliances, check and clean your chimney, make sure you have your gas appliances are vented properly, know the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning, and do use a home carbon monoxide detector. On the do not side of the ledger, do not use portable flameless chemical heaters indoors. Do not use a generator inside your home, basement, or garage. Do not use a gas oven for heating your home. And don't let a car idle in the garage. And finally, carbon monoxide alarms. Make sure you have one of these in your house. Test it at least once a month. And if it goes off, don't ignore a carbon monoxide alarm. If this happens, go outside to get fresh air, call 911, account for all persons in the house that should be outside at this point, and don't re-enter the premises until the emergency responders tell you can do so. And that's your safety moment for tonight.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Scary one it is.
Yeah. I know I have a carbon monoxide detector on each floor of our house, so it's a smart investment. A couple other items to provide updates on. First is Portland Cryptosporidium results. The City of Portland reported that Cryptosporidium oocysts were detected in several water samples collected from the Bull Run over the last month. As many as 3 Cryptosporidium oocysts were detected from samples collected on January 14th, 20th, 23rd, 29th, and 30th. And so far this month, 1 Cryptosporidium oocyst has been detected in water samples that were collected on February 3rd, 5th, 10th, 12th, and 13th. So it's been a busy month, a lot of crypto coming in from the Bull Run watershed. The Oregon Health Authority has determined that the public does not need to take additional precautions at this time, and the complete accounting of all of the results are posted on the Water Bureau's website.
Can you explain why the Oregon Health Authority doesn't think this is any big deal? I mean, it seems like the frequency is increasing at an increasing rate.
I can't fully explain it, but this is the information passed along from the Water Bureau. As I understand it, it is basically related to the particular form of Cryptosporidium. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so at this point, they say it's a limited risk of causing disease. I wanted to kind of boast for just a minute. On Tuesday, January 29th, the Westside Economic Alliance featured the Willamette Water Supply Program as part of the WEA's monthly forum. The session was remarkably well attended. It was amazing to me how many people were geeking out over water supply project, but about 100 people showed up and were attentive in their presence. Dave Kraska, Mike Britch, Kevin Hanway, and I, as well as representatives from Stantec and Northwest Pipe, all talked about the Willamette supply and various features of the supply system, how it's being designed to provide seismic resiliency and economic benefits that it is already providing to the region. There were a lot of questions afterwards. I was really surprised, as well as several small group discussions that seemed to break out with people wanting to ask follow-up questions and conversations. So overall, I thought it was a great session and just reflected significant interest on the part of the business community related to the supply program. In another bit of good news, Duplex conversion is complete. So you may recall that several months ago, the Rate Advisory Committee had recommended that we convert the district's duplex, the district's accounts that serve duplexes, to change them from single-family accounts into multifamily accounts. That took some time. It also required a change to the district's rules and regulations, which were approved by you folks late last year. Once the rules and regulations were revised, it took a few weeks to recode the account information in our utility billing system and then complete a quality assurance review. All of that work is now done, and as of late January, all known duplexes are now being billed as multifamily accounts, which I think is just another step forward in terms of trying to address affordability concerns that we continue to hear from the community. And last but not least, as I'd mentioned in an email to the board earlier this month, on February 4th, the district submitted its application for Whittier funding. Now the good news is we'd already been invited to submit an application, and so they kind of have a funny way to approach the process. But it is a major milestone to complete that submission, and so I've asked Paul Matthews to step up and provide an update on the Whittier program this evening. Paul.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, President Bagnall and Commissioners. So yes, it was quite a milestone. On February 4th, we submitted our application for the Whittier program, which is the low-interest credit program that we have through the EPA. On the screen here, I've listed a timeline of where we are. So we did submit the application. We had up to 365 days to submit it, but we wanted to get it in early so that we can close earlier. So that application is submitted. We are now on the evaluation phase, where we're getting questions from the Whittier program. We've had 2 questions so far, one about the NEPA permit, which the program is addressing for us, and then they're also wanting to look at verify the project cost estimates as well as the schedule, so they can understand how the project's coming together. So we're working through that phase. There will be questions about our financial plan as well, the plan of finance, and we should be working through that. Once we get through that phase, we'll move into the term sheet development, and that's essentially where we start working on the loan document itself. So that will be the terms and conditions that will apply for the loan document. We go through a process of getting that approved, and then finally we have our final negotiations and we close. The moment that we close, or the day that we close, that's when the interest rate gets assigned that we'll have for the life of the loan. And this loan will be for probably 35 years after the water supply program is substantially complete, so 35 years after 2026. Look this morning, if we had closed this morning, the interest rate would have been 2.99%. So we are really wanting to move quickly before interest rates move in another direction. So with that, answer any questions that you might have.
Do you have any idea if we were the first to put our application in?
We were, if you look at the website, our application still hasn't been shown as being submitted. However, they cashed our checks. We know that they have our money and that they have submitted the application.
There's nobody else showing.
No, there is one other agency that showed that their application was submitted on the 29th of January.
So they beat us. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, then Andrew Carlstrom will present the department report this evening. Andrew.
All right. Good evening again. So tonight's department report is on the project we have underway to replace the TVWD website. Just a quick review, the customer service department at TVWD has 5 essential functions: customer service and billing, field customer service, communications and public affairs, conservation, and the CIS project. Communications and public affairs is the business owner for the website and the webmaster here at TVWD, and they're taking the lead role on the implementation of the new website. Over time, we've received quite a bit of feedback on the existing website, and this is a sample of what we've heard from customers, from you, and from TVWD staff. We've heard that it's text heavy, it's graphics poor, it doesn't really meet current design standards. The search function is very limited. It doesn't have intuitive navigation. There's some duplicative content. It's not mobile friendly. The content management system, or CMS, has limited functionality, and it doesn't meet current ADA, or Americans with Disability Act standards. So we started a project to change the website, and here are some of the objectives that we have. We want to improve the customer digital experience first and foremost. We want to better serve customers as well as TVWD departments who want to post information to the public. We want to modernize and expand what we're calling the TVWD Virtual Service Center, with the caveat that we won't really have a true customer self-service portal that's integrated to billing functions until we have the new CIS live. We want to meet current ADA requirements. We'd like to be able to have the ability to have microsites with partners such as the WRWC. We want to be able to better reflect and represent the mission of the district, as well as represent the value that TVWD provides to the community. We want to be able to represent people and value as we're communicating the value of water. And of course, we're responding to feedback from you and customers and from staff. And finally, this is part of addressing the communications initiatives for the current biennium. So we procured a new website vendor. We had an RFP process with a cross-functional selection committee in the district. The selected vendor was Municode. We now have a contract in place. Some of our constraints for the project: we're bearing down on getting this implemented within the current fiscal year, so by June 30th. The scope of services that Municode will provide for us are web hosting as well as design services, and the budget is $60,000, and I'm happy to report that we're going to go far under that budget. I wanted to give you just a quick snapshot of what the main TVWD website looks like versus an example that Municode implemented, and this would be Lakewood Water District in Washington. So this would be just to give you an idea of what could be with a cleaner design and simple navigation. So current, eventually future. I'll do it again. Current, just like at the eye doctor. Future. You vote for B. Okay. Thank you. The next steps on the project, we're working with Municode on the design plan, and we'll be working with TVWD customers, just like when we brought in customers to do testing on the payment system. We want to truth test what some of the design choices are with those who are really going to be the end users. And we'll be developing new content. We're not just going to port over the content as is. Some of this will be created new because it will be less text heavy. And finally, we will be displaying the new logo. As anticipated, the idea was to develop the new brand before implementing the website, and we're following that sequence. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have, and Andrea Watson is here as well.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Andrew.
Okay.
And if there are no questions, that concludes the CEO and management staff report this evening.
All right, well, that moves us into Commissioner Communications section of the evening, and we will start with the reports of meetings attended. Why don't we start with Commissioner Sanders?
Thank you. I was at the January 29th work session about the upcoming budget committee, and that is it for me.
And Commissioner Schmidt?
I forgot about that meeting.
Oh, you're welcome.
January 29th?
January 29th.
Yeah. I attended the SDAO convention in Sun River, and the January 29th work session, and tonight's regular board.
Commissioner Duggan?
I have to report for 2 months. On January 9th, I attended the Regional Water Providers Consortium Executive Committee meeting, where it's our regular third of the year meeting where we talked about the budget and how we were going to present it as an executive committee in our recommendation to the full board. On the 29th, I attended the board work session with the budget committee that we had here. On the 31st of January, Andrea Watson and I attended the Vision Action Network's Washington County Equity event, where quite a number of elected officials from Washington County gathered with a number of social service agencies and other folks to talk about how to advance the cause of equity among our community here, members of our community, and how certain parts of our community may not be tied into participation and all the advantages that a lot of us enjoy and take for granted that may not be readily available to everyone on a fair and equal basis. So we talked about the cause of equity, things that we might develop as a joint group, and things that individual agencies can do to further that cause. And I think the big takeaway from the day is you really have to listen. You have to listen to all the constituents and customers that we encounter. And not everyone can be put into a little box and say, oh, they're taken care of. You can't dismiss people's concerns. You have to listen to them and find common ground and ways that we can assist and help our community grow. And have everyone feel that they are a part of a community and not excluded. On the 6th of February, I'd attended the full Regional Water Providers Consortium Board meeting where we did adopt the budget. It's pretty much a stay-the-course budget with a few tweaks in the main programs of conservation, regional coordination, and emergency planning. That meeting went fairly well. I attended the SDAO conference in Sun River with Commissioner Schmidt and President Bagnall, and then tonight's meeting. That's all I have to report.
Commissioner Doan?
Yes, well, I have attended a number of meetings besides taking 2 weeks off to build houses in Cambodia. But on the 17th of January, there was a meeting of the West Side Economic Forum, and we met with the state legislators, the local ones. Very interesting. There was a WIF, which is Willamette Intake Facility Board meeting in January. And then last Thursday, I met with the Aloha Business Association. That's it. Oh, and I got bit by a dog in Cambodia and undergoing rabies treatment. So.
Did he have an accent?
Well, yeah, we got there via Korea and China. So it was an interim. My passport's pretty much all stamped up now. But anyway, it was very worthwhile.
Good for you. So on the 29th, I had 3 meetings, Finance Committee meeting with Commissioner Duggan and our CFO. And we had the SDAO conference briefing, and we had the board work session, which was one of the better, more valuable work sessions we've had. It was very wide-reaching, covering the CIP, the financial plan, and all of the work that staff go through in preparation for building a new biennial budget. The 7th through the 10th, I attended the SDAO conference and went to 3 sessions on cybersecurity that just absolutely scared the heck out of me. Who's doing that? All right, and on the 12th, I had a meeting with our CEO to look at agenda planning for tonight's meeting and for the upcoming meetings, other upcoming meetings, and of course tonight's meeting on district business. With that, we'll turn to topics to be raised by commissioners. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring for the good of the order? All right, hearing none. Public comment is next on the agenda. Public comment time is set aside for persons wishing to address the board on items on the consent agenda and matters not on the agenda. Additional public comment will be invited on agenda items as they are presented. Do we have any persons who would like to comment? I see one member of the public. All right, seeing none, we move to the next item, which is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Any board member may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Any items requested to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion will be considered immediately after the board has approved those items which do not require separate discussion. The 2 items we have on the consent agenda this evening are A, approve the January 16th, 2019 regular meeting minutes, and B, approve the January 29th, 2019 work session minutes. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. The business agenda. First item on the business agenda is to consider adopting Resolution 06-19, a resolution adopting definitions and guidance for Tualatin Valley Water District in the analysis and implementation of public improvement and other projects. We'll have a staff report from our Chief Engineer, Carrie Pack.
Good evening, Commissioners. I've come to you occasionally during the past year and a half since the House Bills 3203 was passed to talk about how we identify, prioritize, and complete public improvement projects that deliver quality water to our customers. At the end of my brief presentation today, I'll be providing a recommendation to adopt a resolution defining the public improvement projects and providing guidance for developing least cost analysis methodology. Discussing the construction projects that district performs using district personnel and district-wide equipment, you've seen this chart before. As we look for water supply needs and other infrastructure needs that are identified from the master plans and asset management program, our capital improvement program is developed and approved through the biennium budget process. Completion of CIP projects are either self-performed by our in-house staff or by construction contractors. And how we determine the delivery of these projects is what we're discussing tonight. So as we're talking about this little segment of the life of CIP circle that we have fondly adopted here. Just as a quick refresher, public agencies like us are required to submit a list of CIP projects each year to BOLI, the Bureau of Labor and Industries. In that list, we also need to signify whether the projects will be self-performed or whether it be contracted out to a private contractor. During December 4th work session, we clarified what's considered to be included in public improvement projects. During last month, during November or January's board work session, we also discussed the least cost methodologies that we were recommending. Tonight's resolution provides definition of work categories that are included in public improvement projects, and it also provides the methodologies to be used for completing these analyses. Again, as a refresher, public improvement projects are for projects that are constructed and reconstructed for major renovation on real property for or by a contracting agency, that being us. These projects don't include the projects that are constructed as part of the development projects. So the ones that are infrastructures that are donated to us as part of the condition of approval are not the ones that are included in the public improvement. They also don't include the emergency work, minor alteration, or ordinary repair or maintenance necessary to preserve public improvement. As I mentioned, most of these projects are identified in the Water Master Plan. We also provide public improvement program through a process that include how the projects are going to be completed, and the budget for those projects are approved by your board during the budget process every 2 years for us. These projects don't include, projects that don't meet the self-performance criteria are included in the Exhibit A1 of our resolution that's included in your packet. Again, including emergency work, minor alteration, and ordinary repair or maintenance. And projects that do not meet the objectives of self-performing work must accomplish, or we have to use a least cost analysis if we choose to do those projects in-house. So as projects are identified, we develop scope for those projects. If we decide that the project fits the public improvement definition, and if the project or the district elects to self-perform these projects with using in-house staff, and if the estimated cost of these projects are over $200,000, staff will perform the least cost analysis using the methodologies that are included in your Exhibit 2 of the resolution. The results of the analysis are submitted to BOLI on an annual basis. And the little flow chart that you see there basically summarizes what I just said. So with that brief presentation, because you've heard me talk about this at least, I think, 5 times now. So staff is recommending that the board adopt Resolution 06-619, adopting definitions and guidance for Tualatin Valley Water District in the analysis and implementation of public improvement and other projects. I'm open for any questions that you might have.
Just for the benefit of the public, Chief Engineer Pack is correct. We've been over this several times in work sessions, and so I'd be real surprised if anybody has remaining questions, but do you? In that case, do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 061-19, a resolution adopting definitions and guidance for Tualatin Valley Water District in the analysis and implementation of public improvement and other projects?
I move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. We move to the second item of business on the agenda, which is consider adopting Resolution 07-19, a resolution adopting revised policies of the Board of Commissioners. And the staff report will come from our CEO, Mark Knudsen.
Good evening again. So, as you know, and as we've discussed previously, the board routinely enters into intergovernmental agreements with Washington County and other local agencies, including the cities of Hillsborough, Beaverton, Clean Water Services, Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District, and other agencies. And these are largely for joint improvement projects. What's a joint improvement project? Well, it's typically, for example, with Washington County, where they're going to do a road project, we have either a need or an opportunity to replace the water main that's in the street. And so we work together on the project, and we share in some of the overhead costs, and we pay for the main and they pay for the road. And it truly is a win-win opportunity. They get some savings, we get some savings, but the bottom line is the public is the real beneficiary by not only saving money but avoiding some inconvenience. So that's the kind of project that we're talking about. Over the past 5 years, we've had about a dozen of those kinds of projects, and in each case, we need what is called an intergovernmental agreement to sort of formalize the nature of the relationship. Now, in those past 5 years, those dozen or so agreements, they've ranged in size from about $75,000 to as large as well over $1 million. And so at the January 29th work session, the commissioners expressed some interest in staff's proposal that the board grant the CEO approval authority for routine agreements with local public agencies for joint improvement projects subject to a limit of $500,000. And the board was very clear that you wanted to make sure that as long as that would work, as long as the projects were not split into multiple projects to essentially stay under that $500,000 limit. That would be wrong. Not that we would do that, but I think it's a great clarification. Now, to do that requires an amendment to the existing board policies, which specifically require any amendment to board policy take place at a regular meeting. That would be a meeting like tonight. And all policy-related board actions will be made by resolution. So we have proposed Resolution 07-19, which would amend existing board policies to establish the CEO approval authority for intergovernmental agreements for joint improvement projects subject to the $500,000 limit. I believe that such a policy is in keeping with the CEO's approval and administrative authority. It would simply expedite and simplify the approval process for these agreements, and obviously the board retains oversight and approval authority for those large, non-routine IGAs that would be bigger than $500,000. So it was a simple staff report, but with that, we recommend board adoption of Resolution 07-19. I'm happy to field questions.
One thing is, it's not only an inconvenience to the public. I get really mad when I see a brand new road being torn up because somebody didn't coordinate.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Are there other questions or comments from the board? In that case, do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 07-19, a resolution adopting revised policies of the Board of Commissioners?
So moved.
A second?
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. And that being the last item of business on the agenda, I believe this meeting is adjourned.